Glad to be here. It's really fun to stand up here and look at all of you. You look very beautiful and amazing, and smiles on your faces, and different, like lifesavers. And I'm glad to see you all today. So my husband and I were in the evangelical church for 25 years, the conservative, non-affirming church for 25 years. We were leaders. He was a worship leader. I sang in the worship team. I led women's retreats. We did Bible studies, everything you can do, we did. And then our oldest daughter, the second out of our 5 kids, came out as queer. Yeah, it didn't go over very well. So everything that we had invested in our church, the people we were, the people they knew us to be, all of that didn't matter at all, because our daughter, our queer daughter, was a deal breaker. It was a really big shock. I had never interfaced with the church in that area before, so I didn't know what was happening in that area. It was a shock. Amazingly, we were also excluded from family. My extended family no longer invited us to Christmas or other holidays, and we found out about a family reunion on Facebook that night. That was a shock as well. And I'm pretty sure that some of you, perhaps many of you, have been shunned or excluded by your families in one way or another, and maybe in a really, really hard way. And if so, I'm really sorry. My heart goes out to you. And all the while this was happening, I thought, this is so unlike Jesus. This doesn't look anything like Jesus. Jesus is a story of radical love and inclusion. So this journey led me into my ministry, to start my ministry, my life's work, and it's called FreedHearts, and we help free the hearts of LGBTQ people and their families from the toxic twist of Scripture, and to help them understand that they are included. That's what we do day in and day out. You can look at freedhearts.org and find all kinds of stuff on there that we've done to get connected with us. I'm happy to talk more about my story after the service. So I want to take a look at the fact that in virtually every church, virtually every Sunday morning, Jesus appears to be the linchpin. It seems to be all about Jesus. I mean, we have his cross up on the back where everybody can see it. And yet, churches don't really want to hear from Jesus on this, because they're not. I'm talking about I keep saying churches, but I mean non-affirming conservative churches. They're not really asking Jesus about this. And some of us, as LGBTQI people or families or allies, have become so battle-weary, we've kind of given over Jesus to them in many ways. Many of us have just said, forget it. But that's not right, because Jesus is the ultimate story of radical love and inclusion. Jesus is our story. So I'm here today with you to reclaim Jesus, to reclaim our birthright as included. Jesus tells the story of the outlier as the included. He's the one who invites us all to follow him, to set aside all the rules and regulations and just follow him, because we're all included. It's time to take the story of Jesus back and reclaim that. So let's take a look at a few stories and parables, and the point of all of them, which is to say, you're included. Let's look at the Good Samaritan. This is the amazing story of the man lying beaten by the side of the road, and religious leaders pass by. They don't have time for this. They have religion to attend to. So this outlier from a hated race comes by. Let's say he's an undocumented immigrant, maybe a person of color, flaming, transgender. And he takes care of this man beaten by the side of the road. Jesus holds that person up as the example of what it is to love your neighbor, of the person who loves others well. This is Jesus at his finest, overturning our understanding as surely as he overturned the tables in the temple. This could be the banner story of the entire LGBTQI community and the families who love them. We can reclaim that. How about the amazing story of the woman forgiven for adultery? Religious leaders have this harebrained idea that they'll entrap Jesus by setting this woman up in adultery. They did this several times, and it never worked, but they kept doing it. So they dragged this woman out to the public square, and they're already picking up stones to kill her with. So they bring this case to Jesus, ostensibly for his ruling, but they are so sure that he will have nothing new to add to the conversation that they already had their answer in their hand. Here's how Jesus responded to this woman. She's included. He shuts down her accusers, he sends them away, and then he says, "Neither do I condemn you." What a shocking, scandalous story that is. He talks to her privately. He removes her shame. And he says, "I don't condemn you." Then at the very end, we have this thing that Jesus said, "Go and sin no more." But literally, it's really, don't miss the mark anymore. That's what sin means when you look at it prior to centuries of condemnation and moral guilt that's attached to it. He's just saying, don't miss the mark anymore. And what he's really saying is, you don't have to take leftovers from these men who would have you stoned to prove their point. Don't settle for something like that. I've got so much more for you than that. That's what he's saying. He's saying don't sin anymore. Nobody goes and sins no more. So he's already freed her from the effects of the law. Now he's going to bring in the law at this point? No, not at all. But I think it's really interesting that out of this entire mind-blowing story, what do modern religious leaders take from it? Go and sin no more. Do your eyes roll like mine do? To bring up this phrase is to miss the entire point of the story. It was a lesson for the heart to follow Jesus and to be included. Reclaim that. How about the woman who anoints Jesus? Here we've got a woman that the town calls a sinful woman. Jesus doesn't call her that, but the town does. She scandalously comes into this group of all men. She scandalously lets her hair down. She scandalously rubs his feet in front of all these men. And who does Jesus correct? The host, who's a religious leader, who does not welcome her, who's judging her. That's a pretty shocking story. We can reclaim that. Have you ever heard it said that the Bible is very clear that marriage is one man, one woman? Okay. This claim comes from Matthew 5 and Matthew 19, where Jesus appears to affirm marriage is between one man and one woman. But that's not what happened. Jesus is answering a question that the religious leaders gave him in yet another plan to entrap him. They had this thing called no-cause divorce. Did you know that? It sounds familiar, doesn't it? Today, we have that. Which essentially allowed these men to get out of marriage that they were tired of and move on to the next wife. We wouldn't see that today, would we? It was a slow laugh, but that was meant to be good. And that would leave that woman destitute and unmarriable. And Jesus said, no, you will not treat marriage as a revolving door so you can have what you want. That's not fair to the wives because they are included. And it was not a treatise on marriage, which at the time was one man, one woman, but he was addressing a current issue. Jesus knew about the old times when David had multiple wives And God said, if you hadn't had enough, I'll give you more. Okay, Jesus knew about all that. He was answering a current issue and a particular question. Why would religious leaders twist scripture like this? I can't imagine. Unless it's to maintain their own status quo. But Jesus said, no, 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 no. You're included. And I have harsh words for those who want to exclude, because you're all included. And then later, or in there, Jesus also quotes Genesis, that God made them male and female. But don't get distracted by that. He's still addressing the current issue of divorce. To treat it any other way is to misappropriate it. This phrase, God made them male and female, is about our need for a partner relationship that you can count on. It's not comprehensive. Doesn't Jesus know about intersex? Clearly, intersex proves that male and female are not comprehensive, are they? But Genesis also says God created night and day. Doesn't Jesus know that there's also dusk and dawn and twilight? Those were never meant to be comprehensive delineations. And to take them literally and use them that way is to distort them. This is another story of defending the marginalized, because Jesus always gives voice to the marginalized. Reclaim that. Another phrase we've all heard is tough love. Have you heard that phrase? Yeah, it's used to suggest that we are supposed to draw a line on someone's sin for their benefit. But tough love is only tough. It's not love. And it is not in the Bible, even though it's presented as though it is. It was originally coined in the 70s by a man who was trying to help at youth risk, and he had a place for them to live. And he talked about tough love, meaning the rules here are enabling you to stay here because you're included. So the rules, like we don't bully each other, don't steal from each other, no drugs, make it in by curfew, those are rules designed to include, not exclude. But it's been twisted into you can't be part of this church or this community or this family if you're LGBTQI or a supportive parent or whatever sin du jour they want to talk about. It's bullying, and bullying is a power play. So we're going to reclaim that. The idea when you're looking at scripture is always to look through the lens of love and inclusion. That's what it's there for. It is written from the perspective of the marginalized, and it should be read through those eyes, or else you're misreading it. If it's used from the dominant culture to overpower those beneath them, that's an abuse as bad as anything that the Bible ever talks about. How about this? Go tell your brother their sin. You heard that one? Okay, there are two beautiful verses about inclusion that have been twisted to justify exclusion. One is Matthew 5:23, where Jesus says, so if you're presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar. Go be reconciled to that person. Then can offer your sacrifice to God. That means if you've hurt someone or they think you've hurt them, then go make it right. You've got business to attend to. Then come back and sacrifice to God. Because those people that you've offended are included. A similar verse just down in Matthew 18:15 adds, if another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. This verse is about reconciling so that people can be, what? Included. We've heard this verse pulled out to justify kicking LGBTQI people out of their churches, or for heaven's sake, their homes. This is anathema to the entire meaning of the verse and the gospel. This is a means, the verse is meant to be a means to reconcile when we offend each other, not a police badge to go straighten everybody out. Reclaim that. These verses have been twisted into a broom to use a broad sweep of church discipline to correct anything you don't like, and that is a misuse. This is not about ferreting out people's sin, as determined by the church. On the contrary, it's about how to reconcile people together, even in the midst of their offenses. Anything else is not what Jesus taught. So reclaim that. Jesus gave one command: love. Love God, love others. And everything else, the law and the prophets, will fit under that. Throwing out our kids or the families that support them is not loving others, nor is it loving the God who created them. To love others in the power of Christ is to include. Now, you can't stop people who want to take matters in their own hands and decide who's a sinner and who's not. And there are plenty of people happy to do that. But you don't have to be at the effect of them. You can see their Phariseeism for what it is and decline to let them tell you that you're not included, because you are included. Now take a deep breath and turn to the person next to you and say, "You're included." Now take a deep breath and turn to the person next to you and say, "I'm included." So I want to tell you a story of the prodigal, a retelling of the prodigal daughter. Mitchell had fought back growing awareness that deep down, where no one could see, he was a she, and his name was Marissa. He had no idea how he would tell his father. So Mitchell wrote a note. "Dear Dad, I can't live this way anymore. I've tried for 20 years, and I cannot change this. I know you won't understand. It's taken me this long to understand. But I'm leaving. You see, I'm a man. I'm not a man. I'm a woman, and I have to go figure out what that means. I'm sorry this hurts you, but I have no choice. Say goodbye to Mark for me." So Mitchell headed off on a journey where no one could follow and discovered Marissa. After a time, was it 6 months, 2 years? Marissa hardly knew. She had changed her number when she left, and she never once called her family. But after a time, she decided she wanted to go home. She had no idea what to expect as she took the familiar roads toward home. How would they receive her? Suddenly seized with fear, she panicked. She pulled over only 50 miles away from home. Home. She hadn't even said that word since she left. She pushed every thought of home away because she knew they would not accept her. She'd left as Mitchell, and now she was going back as Marissa. How did she expect to go back? She dialed home. She had to know what was ahead of her. Her dad picked up, and Marissa dumped out words that didn't make any sense, trying to talk and not listen. Oh, what was she doing? And as she spoke, she heard the words, "Yes, come home. I'm so glad you called. Please come home." Somehow she drove those miles back to the house. Was it her father running out the door to greet her? She'd never seen her father run. She got out of the car. He stopped and looked at her, taking her all in. He said over and over, "I cannot believe you're here. I missed you terribly. You look great." Tears streamed down his face, something else Marissa had never seen. Neighbors looked out windows. A few stepped out of their doors to see their father skipping up the steps, arm flung over his sun-turned daughter, back after all this time. "I hope you're hungry," Dad said. "I picked up dinner after you called." "Oh, that sounds great. Where's Mark?" "He's at work," Dad answered. "But come tell me all about you." And they talked into the wee hours. That night, Marissa slept in her old bed. Where she used to cry tears of anguish, she now cried tears of joy. The next morning, Mark found his dad in the kitchen making coffee and pancakes. Marissa slept in. "So how long is he staying?" "Marissa?" Dad asked. "She's back. She'll be here for a while." "Dad, it's Mitchell," Mark said. "Mitchell's a guy. How can you let him come into our house like this? He made a fool of you. He walked out of here without a look back. Now he parades in heels and you're okay with it? Son, when Mitchell left like that, I thought I would die. Losing your mother was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And then to lose Mitch was too much. How can you be okay with that? Sit down and listen to me. Mitch told me about wanting to be a woman. No, knowing he was a woman. She was a woman. But I couldn't hear it, Mark. It made no sense to me. Then when he left, I was out of my mind. I couldn't believe it. So I did what I should have done in the very first place. I searched out answers. I tried to understand what this whole transgender thing meant. I know, Dad, and I couldn't believe you were buying it. Son, if you'd taken this journey with me, you'd understand. I'm just sorry I didn't try to understand it before. Mark fairly spat at him now. Take that journey with you? Mitch finally gets out of here with all his stupid stuff, and now he's back and you welcome him? You ordered food for him last night, and you're making breakfast for him now. What about me? When did you do that for me? Mark, I'm here for you every night. I have prayed day and night for Mitch to come back, and now Mitch is Marissa, and she is welcome in our home. Dad, I did everything right. I never took a wrong turn. What about me? He felt like a child, but he couldn't help it. Mark, you have me. I'm here. Always. Mark couldn't help the tears now, and his dad pulled him close and held him. Mark, my beloved son, don't resent Marissa. He was miserable for years. I could never get it, but now I get it. Mitch is finally who we always wanted to be, and that's Marissa. And she's finally happy. Let her have that. Mark let himself be engulfed. I just want you to be proud of me, Dad. Oh, son, I couldn't be more proud of you. Don't do anything to make me proud of you. I already am. Nothing would ever make me prouder. My beloved son, rest and enjoy how much I love you. I think that's a lot of the trouble with the non-affirming church, is that they don't like for the non-compliant, non-rule followers to get away with it when they're working so hard to follow rules. But Jesus' biggest directive was, follow me. When he started calling his disciples, he said, follow me, because you're included. Follow me and I'll show you how to include others. Jesus' entire ministry is about inclusion. All the stories are about inclusion. The Good Samaritan, the point was inclusion. The man beaten by the side of the road, he's included, and you're wrong if you step over him. The man who stopped to help, I know you hate his race, but he's included. The story of the woman forgiven for adultery, hey, she's included. That go and sin no more, that's not what I meant. It's not even what I said. I said you're included. The bold woman washing my feet, she's included. That marriage thing, yeah, I was answering your trick question, but I was saying you're included. No, you can't dispose of your wife when you're tired of her, because she's included. Prodigal daughter, the trans daughter, you're included. The other son who's judging, what the heck, you're included too. That woman who touched my robe, you're included. Those children, don't send them away. They're included. The gay kids, the transgender kids, the agender kids, whatever it is, and adults, don't kick them out because they're included. Don't give me any stuff about tough love. You don't get to not include people because I said they're included. It's time to reclaim all of this. What is Jesus about? Inclusion. What's his main message? Inclusion. What's the parable about? Inclusion. What's that story about? Inclusion. What did he talk to the religious leaders about? Inclusion. I want you to leave here equipped to say, this is my Jesus. Don't you dare use him against me. The bottom line is that we affirm LGBTQI people and all people because of Jesus and not in spite of him. He's the greatest story of inclusion ever told. Thank you.